What job should marketing get done in a company?
Kind of gave me a precursor that this was gonna be how our conversation started off. And I thought this was a very complex question, very few words, but very complex. And I think it's evolved, marketing has evolved so much over time. To me, marketing now, the job that it should be accomplishing is it should be creating the first impression of your company. And that was the way that I could think of it to encapsulate everything that it does in one simple sentence of response. Recently we're talking about how maybe some brands and companies would benefit from niching down to one social channel or limiting their social to maybe just TikTok or Reels or things like that. And I think that makes a lot of sense now because marketing has grown and expanded in so much. Where are you making that first impression that it's going to help you accomplish those goals? And I know you're talking to a CEO recently too, and about sales and KPIs and returns and things like that. And I think that if a company is doing marketing and has a strategy and it's in place and it's doing really well, the thing that it's doing is it's creating that first impression. To me, a well-ran marketing campaign, a well-ran marketing department, they are making that first impression to generate that lead, to get that click through, to bring people to your website. And that is why marketing is so important, especially now and today. We think back 40, 50 years ago, marketing advertising was much more focused on print and TV and long drawn campaigns and things like that. Well, now everything is so fast and there's so much. So that first impression, that could be the only impression if you're not doing it right. So to me, marketing is the first impression.
That's Ashely Fabry, a former marketing manager turned solopreneur of Ashely Rose Branding. I got coffee with Ashely months ago to chat social media marketing, and that led to this conversation. But in this convo, we go far beyond social to discuss marketing's role today and into the future. Before we get into our conversation, run the intro. Welcome to episode 57 of On Marketing, a show where we explore what marketing is. My aim is to assist you in improving how you think about marketing in life, not to tell you what to think. It's October 23rd, 2024. I'm Jordan Ogren, a marketing strategist by day and a podcast host by night. All opinions shared in this podcast are the individual views of the hosts and guests, not those of their employers or associate organizations. This content is intended for informational purposes and should not be considered professional marketing guidance. Listeners act on the information provided at their own risk. Thank you for being here. So a thought that I have as you're talking, Ashely, is the funnel, or there's probably 1.5 million adaptations of this, but is that awareness then? So like the first impression, I'm trying to not make it synonymous with awareness, but it would seem that it would be wrapped together, that the marketing's job is to somewhat bring awareness to people that you want to serve about your service product. Or how do you see those two playing together, or maybe they're slightly different?
I think in theory, yes, it is synonymous with awareness. I think if we're doing it well, marketing is answering questions, marketing is making a awareness of some sort. It is doing those things, but in order to encompass it all, that first impression might not necessarily even have anyone aware of your brand. And I think in guerrilla marketing, that's often the case. I saw a marketing fail recently on LinkedIn, a video of in New York, there was a guerrilla marketing campaign that someone was running where they took a QR code and they posted it all over, and it was a cheating rumor. Like, Johnny, I know that you've been cheating on me. And then when you scan the QR code, it brought you to a brand's website to purchase their female lingerie products or something to that effect. It was like a shopping link. Um, to me, that was a first impression fail. So number one, didn't connect to the dots on how the cheating rumor had to do anything with their brand. Maybe if it was Ashley Madison, it would have made sense. But you know, number two, most people probably, if they weren't aware of your brand, are now mad at your brand. So that was like the bad first impression to me. So I think from a marketing perspective and a strategic marketing perspective, establishing that first impression in a positive, trustworthy, gaining all of those adjectives that we all hear that we want our brand to encapsulate is actually one of the more difficult things than people probably realize.
Well, I like how you touched on the fact that the first impression is regardless of where they are in their journey, the buyer's funnel, that you could have a first impression right as they're considering. So it's not really tied to awareness. I like that you kind of remove that. And I think, though, to the point, it really creates. I know that you kind of stated that it simplified or it brought in, but for me, it even extends it more because like your people are interacting with people out in the world, and that's essentially a marketing if they don't understand the ethos of the brand and how they should speak about all those things. So maybe to make it more practical for the work you do, how do you see that in social media or in content or the things you do? Because that'll probably start to make it more tangible for me to kind of grasp. But I agree that marketing is that first impression and you need to be intentional about it. So I agree with you on that, but I'd love to go deeper. Social content, all that. How is that a first impression? How do you use your definition there?
That's where I think it's so, and you started to touch on this, whether it's a trade show or social media, TikTok video, or a LinkedIn post, or your website, or your email. We have all these different tactics that fall in the funnel that might be where someone is finding that first impression search. I think it's so important that that's that consistent message and that you are putting that best product forward, and it becomes that we have this quality over quantity battle and all of those type of things that are so important to consider when we're putting that. And I think that is how I have been positioning proposals and stuff like that for new clients when they're especially, so I work primarily with smaller businesses in the Northeast Wisconsin region. I have some clients that are in different regions like Florida and things like that, but mostly in Northeast Wisconsin. And I think the question that I hear the most is like, well, where am I going to see my ROI on this? And my challenge is, where are you already not seeing the ROI by not showing up as your best self when I Google you and it brings me to a wrong address 3 miles down the street, or when I Google you and it shows up as a different business, or if I'm on social media and I'm searching for you and I can't even find you. Something that we are seeing slowly shift in buyer habits and Gen Z as they've gotten older, and we've got Gen Alpha coming up now, is that they're not even going to Google. They're going to search on social media first, so TikTok and Instagram and all of these other places, they're going to find it. And if you don't even have a presence there, then our first impression is we don't exist.
A question that I have here that is coming up, or maybe like how to avoid it, is as you're talking about the importance of a first impression, making it the best first impression, I could hear perfectionism creep in, that it needs to be so perfect that lo-fi is not the future and everything needs to be polished and everything. So how do you then wrestle? Because to be honest, I don't recall my first impression with my wife. Now, I will argue it was likely a subconscious thing that if it was like really bad, it was like, okay, no, like this just isn't going to work. Vibes are off. But I've also had vibes are off and then all of a sudden they're my best man at my wedding because a first impression is just one moment into a. So how do you think about this balancing of like, if you screw it up, you may never get another chance. But if you completely strive for perfection, you won't have that many impressions, quote unquote. How do you balance that?
Nothing, especially in smaller business marketing, nothing needs to be a $100,000 production, multiple day video shoot to answer basic questions. And I think that actually we've kind of reached the influencer peak and like pulling back the curtain, and we are all starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with the fact that we are recording this on right now and I don't have a filter on my face, all natural.
Yep.
So I we all appreciate that, and when it makes sense for your brand, it makes sense. A doctor that I've worked with in the past, and he on his own personal channels has really strived to have that more personal approach because of we're becoming reversed on needing everything to be so perfect and so studio lit and all of those things. So I encourage a lot of my clients to get confident in filming content on their own. Let's set up a tripod, like let's do the takes, let's take the time to answer the basic questions and be human. And while our first impression doesn't have to be perfect, a good first impression, an honest first impression is so much better than no impression.
Could probably chat to you for hours on social marketing, all that. So that was a great bow tie on kind of the opening marketing being about that first impression and then seeming it, all the places that it could go. So I'm ready to take this now to the life realm, kind of go away from marketing, get a little philosophical, get a little deep. Are you ready to hop over?
Oh, yes. And this one I did not come up with an answer with.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you ask like the pointed question to me, and I'm going to take a moment to figure out exactly how I'm going to answer
Oh,
this.
yeah, so the question for this is really what the quickest way to ask it is what is the purpose of life, but maybe some thoughts is like what progress should we be aiming for as humans? Should progress even be a goal of humans? Should we stable? Is that good? How do you think about in your own life and maybe in others or what you've read? How do you approach life? Like what should I be focusing on doing, striving for?
Well, the purpose of life is not marketing. So, spoiler alert.
Darn it, no.
That was the first thing that came to my mind when I read that. I'm like, not marketing.
Not
Um,
marketing.
yes. So I feel like I am 32. So I feel like my answer to this question has shifted so much in the last couple years in becoming a mom, and really leaning into family. So for me, I think that all of our purpose here is relationships and to make connections, and that's what makes us human, beyond all animals and things like that, is our deep need to understand things and create relationships and foster those relationships. And as you asked, about striving and progress and perfection, I have chose for my 30s. I chased and chased in my 20s, and that was everything had a goal and everything was a goal, and one goal led to the next goal that led to the next goal, and I wanted to be a CMO and a CEO and rise to the ranks of all of the corporate marketing things. And then the pandemic hit and it really put in things perspective to me of legacy. And so I think it's unique to everyone. I don't think there's any right answer. I think if I knew the right answer, I'd be a lot richer. But because I'd for sure be marketing that and selling that. For me, in my 30s, it has been the opposite. And I think that's okay. It has been to slow down and strive for time and to take in little things and moments and be a mom and a wife and lean heavily into those things that now I understand as a parent that how bittersweet time can be. To it really became so surreal to me, how little our time here is and how we can live it, or we can work it, and I'm trying to find the blend of both of those things, and each day it's different, and each moment at some points in time it's different. But for me, I realized that if I wanted to have my life and have a say in my life, that meant building my own business and building that for myself, because a company wasn't going to build that. No one is ever going to care about you or your family as much as you do. And I work so hard for my clients. Like I pride myself on that. Probably partially anxiety related of needing to make sure that I'm doing everything that I promise and deliver, and could never like want to fail. And I'm so proud of that. But kids are always first. My family's always first. My husband's always first. My parents, my brother. If someone needs me and calls, like I'm dropping everything for them. And that has been for me so joyful in owning my own business, to have that flexibility and ability to do that, day in and day out and be where I'm truly needed. And kind of coming full circle of it, ER and PR, like that type of thing. The posts can wait till tomorrow. I love what I do, but like the post can wait till tomorrow. But like my son having an ear infection and needing his mom, that that couldn't wait for me. And I know so many amazing parents that travel for work and do all of these things and find fulfillment enjoying that. And I'm so glad that works for them. And everyone is so different, and females and males that have kids run businesses, run families, run large companies, and like that works for them. But what I knew I needed in my life was to be able to be present in this moment. So that's what life is for me right now in this current stage, and I'm sure in 20 years it'll look different and feel different. But the number one advice that I gave myself when I left my full-time corporate job, started a business, and found out I was pregnant 7 days later was was to bet on yourself. Like you're never gonna regret taking a risk and betting on yourself. Because like I said, you're the one who cares most about this person and your marriage and your family and all of those things. So if you have the opportunity to bet on yourself, whether it's taking a new job or, you know, growing a career or doing these things, do it. Like you your most important thing is the relationship. So that's where I think that we all could lean in a little more to that human importance. And so this year I set 0 goals for myself for the first time in 10 years, and I'm happy to report coming up in November here, I've achieved all of those 0 goals. I really took a step back from like feeling like I needed to grow all the time and putting that pressure on myself, because it's a lot of pressure to like continuously be setting all of these goals and doing all of these things. And right now, like, I'm just lucky if everyone gets out the door with clean clothes and a clean face and shoes on. So that's where I'm at right now.
I love that. A few thoughts, as always, from your very thoughtful answer. It almost seems like to the point is different. You kept saying different for everyone, or it could look different. So then for me, I'm always trying to find an answer, something that we can all use. And it seems like something I can pull from you is this fact of like, first step, prioritizing. So what is most important? You said a lot of that family's one, but it's this prioritization process, and then making sure my time, my resource, my attention, my money is all going to them in the right order. Because I think there's a Thomas Merton quote that says, I put my ladder against something, climb to it to realize that I put it against the wrong wall. And it's like, if you're always constantly reprioritizing or just asking like, what's number one, what's number two, what's number three, what's number four, it's just so much helpful, because then you can align your attention, your presence, your time, all of that to that. So I like that point. I also like the relationships, but what does that lead to? Like, what's the end result of giving to relationships or having relationships? Like, I guess that's a question I had as you were saying, is like, well, what does that lead to?
I think as humans, like it's the connection. We all strive for it. And I don't know who said it, but like the quote of like one is the loneliest number. And I don't think as a species we were meant to be all alone. And weirdly, in the internet world, in the doom scroll of today, a lot of times I think it's easy to feel like very cut off. And we had the pandemic and like those type of things where like, and to get really super philosophical about it, in the United States, we're built way differently than other countries. We're like not city based, where everything is rural. Like we have to drive to everything, we have to make a plan. Like we're not really a community based structure. So I think that, and once you have kids, it's actually really hard to maintain relationships outside of your like immediate household and family, because a lot of your time goes to caretaking, and like someone is sick all the time and plans get rescheduled, or like someone, like it gets wild. So intentionally, I think that for me, especially in being like a solo business owner and things like that, taking advantage of opportunities like this to connect and have conversations and create meaningful relationships and friendships and all of those things have brought me great joy. And more so than when I was in the corporate world and I was in an office and I would have small talk. So to me, I prioritize meaningful relationships and not and and creating conversations that are meaningful and deep and philosophical rather than just the surface level stuff.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think again, even on this life, we could probably go for forever. So I really appreciate you bringing very meaningful points to this conversation, and to your point, creating hopefully a meaningful connection with. I remember our first time we got coffee to now, and it's just been so cool to have those thoughts, but even to see them blend through. And I think to your point, without relationships, without people, without feeling seen, all of that. Yeah, life is pretty horrible, and there is data that shows like people who don't get married die at a rate like 10 years, or men do. So there's a lot of science that backs it up. So I do appreciate you kind of digging deeper into that. But obviously, thank you for coming on to the podcast and sharing so much wisdom, Ashely.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jordan. It was great to catch up again really quick. I know that we're gonna wrap pretty quick here, but how are you feeling about starting your new journey of fatherhood coming up quickly here?
Yeah. Probably when this comes out, it'll probably be either on around the time or a little bit after. I think I'm excited. Obviously, that's like the first thing. But I'm someone, as if anybody's listened to a bit of this podcast, I'm a thinker. So I really take this whole fatherhood or just family to a level at which I try to grasp the amount of responsibility and the weight of how much my actions will be a model for this human, this thing that then just watches. And even this fact too, coming from an amazing family, which I think is important in life, that if you have had great things, you're able to look at those things more objectively. So I find too, we're family, and this, I loved your answer of relationships and putting family first, but I'm also really aware, and I take this from my kind of spiritual realm of when Jesus, and a story, hey, your mother and brother are outside, and he's like, I'm surrounded by my mother. It's this thing that at times I've found that family, if I'm driving down the road and there's a homeless person, don't give a shit, don't care about them, but trust if it was a family member, if it was my son. So that has been like kind of clear of like, oof, I do not want to be the parent who essentially not just makes a child the kind of idol, because I think you need to treat kids well, but almost this balance of like, I respect you so much, I won't allow you to become my world, and I'll allow you to come into our worlds, come to the soup kitchen with me, or do these things. So I'm like nervous because it's very aware of that. I'm aware of all those things. And as someone, I don't call myself a perfectionist, I just strive to be the best I can be. It becomes bigger that if I fail to hit that point, it's not just Kate, my wife, it's not just close family, it's this child now that gets the negative downstream effects of that. So it's made me excited, but a little terrified and scared of the responsibility. And I can imagine you'll be like, it'll all be okay, as many people have shared with me. But I think it's a good thing that I do feel that, rather than just like, it'll be fine, no cares in the world. And then I'm like a half-ass or just a shit father. And it's like, I'd rather have pushed through earlier to be like nervous and trying to like read through as much material as I can, and not just like finding playbooks, but just getting different perspectives. So I guess to open it to you, hearing all that, let's imagine you're me and you're having the, like, what would you tell me, you, younger you?
I think it's super healthy and normal to have all of those feelings and concern. And I think it comes in waves, even as the interesting and weird thing about parenting is like it's so much like everything else in life and it changes so rapidly. So like when you bring home this baby, as long as their basic needs are met, um, it's very like not easy, but like you know what to do. And then they become toddlers and they start having all of these more like emotional, philosophical conversations. They enter the why phase, and you're like, what? And then as I hear, like then it's even crazier when they're teenagers and all of those things. So I have no answers for you other than I think that being part of being a good parent is wondering if you're a good parent and having those healthy thoughts and evaluating yourself. And it's a weird role in that you get, it's kind of like having, right now I have a toddler, so it's kind of like having a very difficult boss. And the only feedback that I get is very, 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 very high praises of how much he loves me, or very, very low praises of how unhappy he is with me when he doesn't get his way. So it is definitely a roller coaster ride, and I think
Mm.
as long as you understand that, which it seems like you got a good perspective about it, you will figure it out as you go, and you will. Just like everything else, you'll make mistakes and be like, oh, shucks, I shouldn't have done that. But I think for me, the thing that I've always tried to model for both of our kids is I am human as well. And I make mistakes, and apologizing and owning up to those mistakes. And then we find a solution and plan together and work through it. So you'll do lovely. You have a good foundation. So good luck to you. I hope all goes well, and I'll be on the lookout for the announcement and updates as they come.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we have to end this podcast before you ask me too many questions. I'm like the Wizard of Oz. People don't know much about me, so I can't. No, I'm just joking. But that was fun to kind of switch it a little bit. I was like, oh, geez, this is why I ask the questions. I don't have to
Yeah,
have an
you're on the
answer.
spot now. Sorry. Yes.
Oh, no, I loved it. That was good. That was good. Well, again, Ashely, thank you so much for coming on. And I hope that we have another far in the future conversation, as it was fun this first combo we had offline, now online. In the future, it'll be exciting as I bring a kid into the world, and my life, probably my perspectives change drastically. So I look forward to our next conversation.
You too. Take care. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you. And this is the end of the podcast. What one idea or topic of conversation stood out to you today? Write it down, share it with a friend, post it on social. The main thing is take action. That's how we go from theory to mastery. We need to practice. We need to put it into practice. Thank you for listening and being here, and I hope you tune in next week.